Thank you very much, and thanks for being here today. We do live in a crazy world. We live in a complex world. We see it in the anxiety that we have to struggle with every day, whether it's the economy, whether it is the elections, the geopolitical risk. For the better part of 30 years, I have been analyzing political risk, trying to figure out what's going on, but not just right now, but what's going to happen 2-3 months from now. Now, I'm reminded of my old boss, Ronald Reagan, to drop a name, had one of the best lines. The scariest thing any American can hear is somebody showing up saying, "Hi, I'm from Washington, I'm here to help." Well, I'm trying to disprove that. I am from Washington, and I'm trying to help. We have so much going on in the world, and it confuses people. I think of it, I put it into two buckets. There's the chaos, and there's the calm. The chaos is what we're dealing with personally, and also, more importantly, with our businesses. I advise a lot of financial institutions, hedge funds, insurance companies, trying to decipher all of this, and where's it all going? What's the chaos? What's the confusion? I have 10 minutes to take you through the world and give you a sampling of what I talk about. Let's go through it. I break it down that there's basically 5 things happening in the world right now. Globalization, as we've known it, is being rewired. What does that mean in terms of trade, in terms of business? Demographics are changing radically. Our world is getting a lot older. I'll point to that in a minute. We live in a new multipolar world where we have free market economies and democracies working together versus the axis of evil. Right? It sounds like some sort of Disney cartoon, but it's pretty dangerous. Russia, Iran, Venezuela, etc. And commodities are now so important. And I think of this every time I'm here in Iowa talking to farmers or in Nebraska, right? Food is becoming more important. Water is more important. Critical minerals are more important as we develop new technologies and build. Okay, well, what does this have to do with you? Let's walk through it. By the way, I said the world's getting older. It is getting a lot older. It's getting older very fast. Here are some of the things to point out. I hear from clients they're so worried about China day in and day out. We're competing with China. They're taking our jobs. They're the future. Not really. Did anybody know that in the last year, China is no longer the largest country in the world? India surpassed them. And China is now moving very rapidly to becoming a much smaller country. Their demographics, they can't have children. They're not having children. By the year 2100, they are on a trajectory to go from 1.4 billion people now to as little as 488 million people. This is a country that is struggling economically in ways that we can't really see unless you know people, work the system, understand it. There are hundreds of protests in a given month. People are so unhappy. They are not our great rival in that terms economically. And the US is making a huge shift here, which impacts all of us. Come to that in a minute. Who are the big winners? India. We never talk about India. Largest democracy in the world. They just had an election in which 800 million people voted. Let me repeat that. 800 million people voted in over 6 weeks of voting. They want to be more and more our friend. They want to do more business with us. They're investing more in the US. They want to be allied with us. We could have a president of the United States who's half Indian, who has relatives sitting there, Kamala Harris. You look at the Republican slate of candidates this last go-around, there were 6 of them. 2 of them were the children of Indian immigrants. Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy. These are huge shifts that we're beginning to see. But the chaos, back to my theme, people are worried about all of these things, but what are the longer-term implications? For farmers here in the Midwest, India is becoming a huge new market opportunity. China, a little bit less. Technologically, this is huge because we are investing in each other's countries to build technology, which I'll come to in a minute. Other things that I cover, that free market base that we're seeing globally being developed, that's economic, that is of mutual security concern. The US, the US, Japan, South Korea, the European Union, Vietnam, the Philippines. We worry about global supply chains. That's having a huge, very long-term positive impact, believe it or not, on the United States. I talk about what's going on in Ukraine. What are the implications for all of us? And other geopolitical risks, ranging from cybersecurity, emerging market debt, etc. I won't go into all of that now, don't have the time. Then I sort of bring it back here, because as I said, I've worked on Wall Street and with Wall Street firms, and I want to help your businesses and your members understand these things so they can bring it to their business strategies as well. I've just talked about a lot of chaotic things. Here's the calm. The US is now going into a huge technological renaissance. We are spending billions of dollars, your tax dollars, let's be clear, to bring back semiconductor manufacturing and other major technological manufacturing to the US. These maps sort of point this out. What does this mean for us? This is huge business opportunities. It's not a coastal thing. They're building them in Iowa, Minnesota, you name a state, you're finding semiconductor manufacturing, other technological manufacturing, and the US government is encouraging that. But what does that mean? It means we have to improve our education system, and that's a challenge for every state. It means infrastructure spending. It means commercial real estate. It means residential. It means a huge thing. And this is just the beginning. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars to rebuild our manufacturing base in this country that we thought we had lost to China and elsewhere, and it's coming back. That's the calm. That's going to continue for years to go. And where can we each, as a business and as individuals, benefit from that? We have other big things to do. Our electrical grid system is going to need a huge upgrade, an enormous upgrade, potentially $1 trillion. I know here in Iowa, some of the biggest energy users are Google, Amazon, and others, right? But that's an opportunity. It's not a spend, it's an opportunity. Here's another thing. We get very down on ourselves in this country. We're going through a lot. People are negative. COVID really kicked us right in the rear end. How about this for a stat? What did we do? We became entrepreneurs. During COVID, there was a very serious spike in one-person, two-person businesses, and it continues apace. I'm one of them. You know many of them as well. This is fantastic. We didn't give up. We actually went out in the middle of COVID and starting businesses at a historic rate. And it was across all sectors. It wasn't just simple little thing, it was everywhere. But we get into that when I talk. We have challenges, our national debt. We're going to have to deal with that. We're going to have to talk about it. And we're all going to have to tighten our belts one way or the other, but that's coming. And we'll make those decisions in a couple months. I talk about this quite a bit. But I'll spare all of you because I don't want to give anybody heartburn at 11:15 in the morning. There's a lot at stake. Who controls Congress? Who controls the Senate? A lot playing out here. But what does that mean? We can talk politics. You can turn on the television. You can watch that all day. I could do all that as well. But the bigger question is, what longer term is going to happen? There's going to be a lot. And it's going to impact all of us. It's going to impact all of our businesses. We have to rewrite the tax code over the next 2 years. What is that going to look like? How is that going to encourage or discourage business? How is that going to encourage trade, investment, which comes into all of our communities? We're going to have to deal with immigration. These are the tough issues. Talk about a hot button issue. I usually put the chicken wire up at that point when I start talking about immigration, right? It's sort of like scene from the Blues Brothers when they're throwing the beer bottles. But it's a big thing. Here's the thing, and I'm not a partisan analyst. Here's the thing. Most economists will tell you we needed those illegal immigrants. If we didn't, we could have been in a recession. The interesting thing is, yes, some of them are very problematic, but where did the rest of them go? They're out there working, doing something. But what do we do with them? Big question, big debate. Trade, where are we going with trade? I've mentioned China. What are we doing with our friends and allies? Our largest trading partner now is Mexico. Mexico, not China. We have a free trade agreement with them. We have to renew that basically in 2026. What's going to happen? We have to figure out what we're going to do with technology. Are we going to spend more billions, hundreds of billions, to further encourage technological investment in this country? To bring it back here, to reshore it. That's the that's the long-term effort underway that impacts everybody in this country. I would argue for all of you, no matter what institution you represent here, it's going to have an impact. Healthcare. What are we going to do about healthcare? We're in a healthcare revolution. Believe it or not, it's expensive. We don't know what we're going to do, but there's a lot of great things happening. And foreign policy. Where else do we go in the coming years? How do we deal with these things? This is what I talk about. This is what I try to help you with. Project out. Not just talk about the here and now, but let's talk about what's going to happen a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. I advise hedge funds, as I said, mutual funds and everything else. But I have more fun actually talking to the businesses in America instead of just Wall Street. It's a great pleasure and a great honor for me to be able to do that, and a wonderful opportunity to talk to you today. Thank you very much.